The 1950s, the decade of jet planes, rock and roll, and a boundless, almost naive optimism. Humanity had just split the atom and, after the initial shock, decided it had found the Holy Grail. It wasn't just a new weapon, it was a promise. A promise of clean, infinite energy. Energy to power our cities. Energy to send us to the moon. And, according to some very ambitious engineers, energy to power our family sedan. Meet the 1957 Ford Nucleon. A car that didn't need gasoline. It didn't need diesel, or even a wall socket. It needed enriched uranium. This is the story of the most ambitious, the most bizarre, and quite possibly the most dangerous concept car ever created. This isn't just a weird car. It's atomic suicide on wheels. Let's be clear right up front. The Ford Nucleon was never built. Thankfully, what you're looking at is a 3/8th scale model Ford unveiled in 1957 to show what they thought the car of the future would look like. And honestly, it looks like something a 10-year-old drew after watching Flash Gordon. It looks like a pickup truck driving in reverse. The cabin, it hangs in front of the front wheels. The windshield is one giant panoramic bubble. And in the back, well, there's no trunk. There's what Ford delicately called the power capsule. But why the bizarre design? It wasn't just style. Every element here was dictated by one desperate need. The cab-forward design had one singular purpose: to put as much physical distance as possible between the people and what was in the back. Because what was in the back was a miniature atomic reactor. Every inch between your spine and that source of gamma radiation mattered. The cabin itself was intended to be a heavily shielded safety cell. Imagine driving a car by sitting on its front bumper. It was radical, but from Ford's perspective, perfectly logical. Little known fact number 1. The submarine principle. It's important to understand. The Nucleon was not an internal combustion car that ran on uranium. It was, essentially, a nuclear-powered electric car. The principle was lifted straight from the first nuclear submarines, like the USS Nautilus. It would have worked like this. The reactor in the back creates immense heat via fission. That heat boils water, or maybe liquid metal, in a sealed, primary loop. That superheated fluid goes to a heat exchanger. There, it boils water in a secondary loop, creating steam. That high-pressure steam spins 2 small turbines. And those turbines drive electric generators, which power motors at the wheels. It's an incredibly complex, heavy, and hot system. It is, quite literally, a miniature nuclear power plant on wheels. But the best part was the refueling. You wouldn't pull into a Shell station. Ford estimated that one core would last for 5,000 miles. Sounds great, right? But what happens when your fuel is spent? You couldn't just top it off. Oh no! You would drive to a special, fortified Ford service station. Your car would be positioned over a lead line pit. A crane would lift the entire rear power capsule, the entire multi-ton reactor, off your car and lower it into a cooling pool. The crane would then grab a new, fresh capsule and bolt it on. You'd pay the bill, presumably by remortgaging your house, and drive away. The old, highly radioactive capsule would be shipped off for reprocessing. This entire infrastructure would have cost trillions. It wasn't just a car, it was a proposal to rebuild the entire national transportation system around radioactive materials. Fact number 2. Fuel choice and the gas pedal. Ford's engineers were actually looking at which reactor to use. This wasn't pure fantasy. They were leaning on real-world research from the Atomic Energy Commission. But how would you step on the gas? In a reactor, you do that with control rods. They absorb neutrons and slow the reaction. To accelerate, you would, in essence, pull the control rods out a little. To slow down, you'd push them back in. Imagine a gas pedal connected directly to the rate of a nuclear chain reaction happening 6 feet behind your head. What could possibly go wrong? On paper, it was science fiction. In practice, it would have been the single worst invention in human history. Ford's engineers were brilliant, but they ran headfirst into 3 unbeatable laws of physics. Problem number 1, the weight. Radiation kills. Gamma rays and neutrons fly out of a reactor core and pass through steel like it's paper. To protect the driver, the passengers, and every pedestrian within 30 feet, you need shielding. Heavy shielding. Usually, that means lead, concrete, or massive tanks of water. Ford was hoping for some new, lightweight composite, but physics is a harsh mistress. Even by the most optimistic calculations, the shielding alone would have weighed between 3 and 5 tons. That's the weight of a commercial box truck, and that's just the shielding. Add the reactor, the turbines, the generators, the frame to hold it all, and the cabin itself. Little known fact number 3, the unsuspension. The total weight of the Ford Nucleon would have approached 10 tons. That's the weight of a city bus or a light tank. Now think about that. What tires could support a 10-ton passenger car? What suspension? What brakes could stop that mass moving at 60 miles per hour? Every pothole would be a structural catastrophe. The car would be undrivable. It would destroy the pavement under it. It couldn't go over most bridges or into most parking garages. It wasn't a car, it was a personal road roller. Okay, so let's say we invent magic tires and suspension. What's next? Accidents. In the 1950s, car safety was, let's say, optional. People didn't wear seatbelts. The steering column was a solid metal spear aimed at your chest. Now, imagine a typical fender bender in a Ford Nucleon. Even a minor rear-end collision could breach the reactor's containment. This is called a loss of coolant accident, or a containment breach. It means venting radioactive steam and fission products all over the intersection. That's not just a car crash. That is a local radiological disaster. It's a tiny Chernobyl on your street corner. Every Nucleon driver would be a potential terrorist. Every auto body shop becomes a hazardous waste site. And the insurance policy? I can't even imagine the premium on a car capable of making an entire city block uninhabitable. And finally, the weirdest problem of all. You get home. You park. You turn the key. And what happens? You can't turn off a nuclear reactor. You can stop the chain reaction. That's called scram. But the reactor core itself, full of decaying radioactive isotopes, continues to generate massive amounts of heat. It's called decay heat. It stays hot 4 hours, 4 days, 4 weeks. Fact number 4. The self-melting garage. Your Ford Nucleon, sitting in your garage, would require constant, active cooling, even when it was off. That means your garage would need its own industrial-grade cooling system, running 24/7, just to pump water or coolant through the off reactor to keep it from melting. If you had a power outage overnight, your car could, well, melt its way through your garage floor. Plus, the reactor never stops being radioactive. You couldn't just park it next to the family room. It would be irradiating your family all day, every day. You wouldn't need a garage. You'd need a personal concrete bunker. So why did Ford do this? They weren't stupid. They were dreamers. And they were marketers. The Nucleon wasn't a real proposal. It was a thought experiment. It was a PR move to show the world. Look at us. We're Ford. We're thinking about the future. We're an atomic age company. And it worked. We're still talking about it 70 years later. But the true legacy of the Ford Nucleon is an ironic one. It lives on, not in our driveways, but in our video games. If you've ever played the Fallout series, you've seen those rusty, Nucleon-inspired cars littered everywhere. And you know what happens when you shoot them? They explode in a miniature mushroom cloud. The designers of Fallout took the nuclear optimism of the 1950s and showed its logical conclusion: a world destroyed by the very atomic cars that were supposed to save it. The Ford Nucleon is the perfect monument to an era so optimistic. It saw the atom as magic. It was a dream of a future that never came. And looking back, that's probably a very, very good thing. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Would you drive a nuclear car if they solved the safety issues? Or was this the worst idea in automotive history? Let me know in the comments. And if you like stories about weird, crazy, and forgotten technology, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.